That island is Russia. This camera is standing in America. Only 2.4 miles separate them, but on the far shore, it can already be tomorrow, up to 21 hours ahead. For centuries, families crossed this water to hunt, trade, and visit. Then the border closed. They could still see the other shore, but they could no longer reach it. So how did two neighboring islands become separated by an entire day? These are the Diomede Islands, two steep rocks in the middle of the Bering Strait. Little Diomede belongs to the United States. Big Diomede belongs to Russia. Between them sit three invisible divisions, an international border, the international dateline, and one of the world's most sensitive frontiers. The gap is only 3.8 kilometers, 2.4 miles. The two islands receive almost the same sunlight. Yet in winter, when it is noon on Monday in the American village, it is already 9 Tuesday morning across the water. Same sky, different day, but the famous 21-hour difference is not constant. Alaska changes its clocks for daylight saving time. Big Diomede does not. So in summer, the gap falls to 20 hours. The dateline creates the different date the country's time zones decide. The exact number. Long before either island was American or Russian, this channel was not the edge of two worlds. Indigenous communities here shared families, language, trade, and food. They crossed this dangerous water because it was also a road, a familiar route. Through a shared homeland. In 1728, Vitus Bering recorded these islands for the Russian Empire. Then, in 1867, Russia sold Alaska to the United States. The new boundary passed between the Diomedes. Big Diomede stayed Russian. Little Diomede became American. The rocks did not move. Their meaning changed completely. The political border came first. The international dateline then followed the same channel. There is no wall in this water. The dateline is simply a convention that lets each country keep its own calendar. Politics divided the islands. Clocks make that division visible every hour. Little Diomede is home to Diomede Village, also known as Ingalik. Just 83 people were counted here in 2020. Their homes, school, and clinic cling to one narrow rocky slope. There is no road to the rest of Alaska. From this village, an international border is not an idea on a map. It fills the horizon. Little Diomede has no permanent runway and no reliable harbor. Supplies arrive by helicopter or by boat when wind, fog, ice, and water allow it. Nome is about 128 miles away. On some days, Russia is easier to see than the rest of America is to reach. For years, residents cleared a temporary winter runway on the frozen sea. For 2 or 3 months, small planes could land there. But Alaska transportation records say the ice has recently formed less reliably. In Diomede, a warming climate can erase vital infrastructure before it is even built. Big Diomede once had an indigenous civilian community of its own. In the late 1940s, Soviet authorities relocated its residents to the mainland. The island became a strategic border outpost, and its village lights disappeared. Across just 2.4 miles, two similar rocks were given radically different futures. In September 1948, the Cold War reached this tiny channel. The border closed. A route used for generations now ended at an invisible line. The ice curtains separated relatives, stopped trade, and turned neighbors into citizens of rival superpowers. The water did not get wider. Permission simply disappeared. Oral histories tell of Diomedes who happened to be on the Soviet side when the border shut. What began as a visit became roughly 52 days of detention. Then came decades of silence. A journey once measured in minutes became a separation measured in years. On a clear day, Big Diomede can look close enough to touch. But a boat cannot simply cross this channel. Big Diomede became Tomorrow Island, Little Diomede, Yesterday Isle. The cruelest distance was not 2.4 miles or 21 hours. It was not knowing what had happened to people on the other shore. On August 7, 1987, American swimmer Lynn Cox stepped into 38-degree water at Little Diomede. Permission from the Soviet side had arrived only the day before. 2 hours and 5 minutes later, she reached Big Diomede and was pulled ashore by Soviet hands. For one extraordinary morning, the ice curtain opened. But the swim carried a story even more personal than its headlines. Through a radio, Little Diomede resident Albert Iyahuk spoke with Marguerite Siganova on the Soviet side. As they compared family histories, they discovered they shared the same father. Two relatives divided by the ice curtain could finally hear each other's voices. The following year, a friendship flight crossed from Nome to Providenia. It reopened direct contact after 40 years. More exchanges followed, and some relatives met again. Lynn Cox's swim did not erase the border, but it made two hostile shores look, for a moment, like neighbors again. Today, this channel is still the border between the United States and Russia. Big Diomede has no permanent civilian community, and crossing without authorization remains prohibited. Meanwhile, less reliable sea ice makes life and transportation harder. On Little Diomede, the old frontier is now under a new kind of pressure. The Diomedes look like a trick of clocks. But their real story is what borders do to people. Here, tomorrow is only 2.4 miles away, and history is the distance that remains.